done. But at the same time, there's also the other extreme where maybe men have gone too much into their feminine and now they need to reintegrate and realign with their masculine energy. And I kind of feel that in women, it's more or less happening the same, right? There's right now in the 21st century with all this progress, women have also gone, a lot of women have also gone extremely to their masculine, with it, which is amazing because it gives them the opportunity to integrate that energy. But there's also been also a loss in their connection to the feminine, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And yeah, you see that a lot. It's like, I just wrote about this today, you know, the animus possession, which is the animus is that inner masculine of a woman, of her psyche, and it's like it possesses her, so then she becomes like really hyper masculine. And the same is happening with a lot of men, especially when men go down the spiritual path. You know, they find that connection to their feminine, and then it kind of takes over them, and then they just turn like completely feminine and then suppress their inner masculine. And you know, I think like it's just how everything works, like in nature, polarities. You know, maybe if you've been living, if a hypermasculine man has been living in his alpha, like really dominant masculine energy his whole life, then he might go the full other spectrum and go really feminine. But eventually it'll have to balance out. And it's the same with women. Like, you know, they might spend a phase in their full on masculine energy, but then they're going to have to eventually balance it out, because that's just, you know, nature's always trying to balance out into that middle point. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's just a part of the integration process, potentially, is like going to the full extreme, you know, men going into their feminine, women going into their masculine, and then coming into a balancing, hopefully eventually.
Yeah, it's a very confusing process, but at the same time, when if you look at like from the bigger perspective in a global way, it's very inspiring. Like in history, how we've been evolving, and now in the process we are right now, where we start to become complete human beings by integrating both of our energies and not being divided, and needing also just a partner or a woman or a man to feel complete, right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty wild how, you know, it's only really been like, you know, you think of the 1940s, the traditional, you know, the housewife at home just there to cook meals for the man and make babies and clean the house, and the man's just out working. And now within like, you know, 50 or 60 years, it's like women are completely like, you know, working for themselves, doing all these things. So it's pretty radical how it shifted so quickly. But I think also, yeah, there can be a mistake in that, where it's like the women also, in this pursuit of freedom and like liberation, it's almost like actually disconnecting them from the feminine principles, because they're taking it too extreme. And then they're like I said, it's like, well, I don't need a man anymore, but yet they still want a man. You know, but they're like kind of not giving any space for a man, because their inner masculine is just taking over and running the show. So yeah, it's like, how do we as men stay men and women stay women, but also have the integration of those two polarities within as well, so we're not coming from like a codependent place, but more like interdependent, you know, like man and woman can be together, but actually working in like a interdependent way, not codependent, where it's like, you know, you can't even, you can't live without that person. That's not healthy. That's
So how would you, for our audience, how would you define them, the masculine and feminine principles, so that they can have an idea for those that have never been in touch with those terms?
Yeah, so if you look at like, I guess, you know, in nature, you know, it shows us a lot. Like, for example, a river, you know, there's like the water flowing down the river, and then there's like on the side of the riverbed, all the rocks and boulders like holding the kind of river in place. So you'd see like, that's a metaphor for, you know, masculine would be the rocks, the water would be the feminine, like flowing, but then the masculine is like containing it. So in nature, you can see it everywhere around us. But then within us, you know, it's those same things. Like masculine energy is that sense of structure, groundedness, protection, direction, you know, containment in a healthy way. And then the feminines, you know, like the flow and the intuition and the emotional body and the eros, like the sexuality and that like embodiment of love, you know. And yeah, so we all have those two qualities within us, but women, we have more of the feminine usually because of the way our bodies are designed. We have a womb, we have, you know, different hormonal structures, and then men have their structure, like their hormones. And you can even see it in our hormones that we are actually more in that feminine masculine principle. Like men's hormones stay the same kind of flat line throughout the month, so they're more in a stable, you know, like you're more like a stable flat line, like the sun. You know, the sun always comes out every day and night, every day, sorry. And then the feminine, our hormones are actually like a bell curve, you know, they're not a flat line. It goes like from the, you know, starts low, then it peaks around our ovulation, and then it tailors off like the phases of the moon. You know, it's a fluctuation. We're cyclical as women. Men are more linear, just in the way of how we are biologically and psychologically. So, you know, those two balance each other out, like they really do. And we actually do we complement each other, you know. That's why God created man and woman, not just all one sex, you know.